She shared her only meal with a homeless man. Then a limo stopped and changed everything she hadn't eaten in 2 days. But today, she gave away her only meal. No camera crew, no social media, no one watching. Just a quiet act of kindness. From a girl who had nothing left to give, but what she didn't know was that someone was watching, and in less than 60 seconds, her life would never be the same again. Because as she turned to walk away, a black limo pulled up beside her, the window rolled down slowly, and a voice from inside said 6 words that stopped her cold. "We've been looking for you." She thought she was forgotten. But fate hadn't forgotten her. She thought it was just a sandwich, but it was a doorway, and what came next will make you question everything you believe about kindness, destiny, and the power of one selfless act. This isn't just a story. It's a reminder that miracles don't always wear wings sometimes. They arrive in a limo she hadn't eaten all day, not because she was fasting, not because she was on some trendy diet, but because she had nothing left. No job, no support, and no safety net. Just a half, stale sandwich wrapped in a napkin and a heart that still believed in doing good, even when the world had done her dirty. Her name was Eliza, 27. Once full of dreams, laughter, and plans for the future, but now she was just trying to make it through one more day in the city that never looked back. She sat on a cracked wooden bench in a quiet corner of the park, watching the sun slowly bleed into the sky. Her fingers clutched the sandwich tightly, not because she wanted to eat it, but because it was all she had left, and then she saw him. An old man with torn shoes, eyes hollow like forgotten alleys, and hands trembling with hunger. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't speak. He just stood by the trash can, pretending to search for something, but his pride was clearly fighting his pain. Eliza looked at the sandwich in her hand. Her stomach ached, but her soul ached more watching him. She stood up, walked toward him slowly, and without saying a word, she tore the sandwich in half. "Here," she said softly, "it's not much, but maybe it'll help a little." The man looked at her, eyes wide with disbelief. It wasn't just the food. It was the fact that someone saw him. Someone cared. He took the sand, which gently like it was a gift of gold, and whispered, "God bless you." She smiled, a broken kind of smile, the kind that hides its own battles. Eliza turned to leave, ready to disappear into the background again, but then a black limo pulled up to the curb. Its engine was too clean, too smooth, like it didn't belong in that gritty park. The tinted window rolled down slowly. A sharp, suited man inside glanced at her. Then, the back door opened. A woman stepped out, tall, poised, power in her stride, eyes that didn't blink. "Eliza Roberts," the woman said. Eliza froze. "Yes, we've been looking for you," the woman said. "Would you come with us?" Eliza's heart raced. Who were these people? What did they want from her? She hadn't done anything wrong. She was just surviving. "I don't understand," she stammered. The woman smiled softly. "You don't have to. Just come. You changed someone's life today, and now it's time someone changes yours." Hours earlier, on the other side of the city, inside that same limo, a billionaire woman named Miriam Lancaster sat watching the world go by. Her wealth couldn't fix the loneliness she carried. Her money couldn't buy her peace. But today, she was doing something different, something that mattered. For weeks, her team had been searching, not for a CEO or investor, but for a soul, a real one, a person with heart, not just ambition. She believed the world had too many people chasing power and too few giving kindness. So she made a decision. Find me someone. She told her assistant, someone who gives even when they have nothing. And now, here Eliza was. Back in the park, Eliza hesitated. Her life had taught her not to trust easily. She had seen promises break. She had heard words that led to nowhere. But something about the woman's tone, the way she looked at her, it felt real. She nodded slowly. "Okay." As she stepped into the limo, the old man she fed watched silently. He didn't know what was happening, but he smiled, as if something inside him already knew. The car pulled off, And for the first time in weeks, Eliza didn't feel like she was running from something. She felt like maybe, just maybe, she was finally heading towards something. Inside the limo, the woman handed her a warm blanket, a bottle of water, and a bag of fresh food. "You probably have questions," the woman said, "all of them." Eliza replied with a nervous laugh, "You'll get your answers." She smiled, "But first, rest, you've earned it." Eliza took the food slowly. It wasn't just about hunger anymore. It was about the feeling of being seen, of being valued, not for how much money she had, but for who she chose to be even when she had nothing. That night, Eliza was taken to a private guest house. Clean bed, hot shower, and clothes that actually fit. She stood in front of the mirror, towel on her shoulders, tears in her eyes. She had no idea who these people really were, or why they chose her, but one thing was certain: kindness had echoed, and it had found its way back to her. Eliza sat on the edge of a soft bed that didn't creak beneath her weight. The sheets were clean. The room smelled like lavender and peace, a scent she hadn't known in years. Her hands trembled as she opened the small care bag left for her on the nightstand. Inside were clean clothes, a handwritten note, and a card that simply read, "You are not forgotten." That line, just 5 words, hit her harder than anything had in years. For the first time in a long time, she wept not from pain, but from the overwhelming feeling of being noticed. She didn't know who these people were, or what they wanted, but something told her they weren't here to take anything from her. They were here to give. As the night settled in, and the city outside continued its loud, fast rhythm, Eliza lay beneath the warm blanket and stared at the ceiling. Her mind wandered back to the man in the park, the one she shared her only meal with. She wondered if he had eaten the rest, if he had a place to sleep, if someone had seen him the way someone had suddenly seen her. Sleep came slowly, but when it did, it felt different. The next morning arrived with sunlight pouring in like gold through the window. Eliza woke to the soft knock at the door. She opened it to find the same woman from the limo, now smiling with coffee in one hand and a folder in the other. "Good morning, Eliza," she said. "We hope you slept well." "I did," Eliza replied cautiously. "Thank you, but I still don't understand what's happening." The woman stepped inside gently and handed her the folder. "You're here because someone powerful saw your moment of kindness, and they believe the world needs more people like you." Eliza opened the folder with hesitation. Inside was a contract, but not for a job. It was an offer, a full scholarship to a leadership academy, housing, meals, mentorship, all expenses paid, but more than that. It came with something she hadn't seen in a very long time: opportunity. I don't have a degree," she said nervously. "I was studying social work, but I had to drop out when my mom got sick. Then bills piled up and The woman raised a hand, gently stopping her. "We know, we read everything, and that's why you were chosen. Not for what's on paper, but for who you are when no one's watching." Eliza's throat tightened. "But why me?" The woman smiled with kindness and conviction. "Because you gave, Eliza. When you had every reason not to, you still chose compassion. You looked at a man the world ignored, and instead of walking past, you shared your last meal. You thought no one saw, but someone did, and that act became a mirror of who you really are." Eliza couldn't speak. Tears brimmed again, but she didn't hide them this time. This wasn't a dream. It was real. Later that afternoon, she was taken to a large estate just outside the city. It wasn't a mansion built for show, it was a sanctuary. And there, sitting beneath a white gazebo in the garden, was the woman who had orchestrated it all. Miriam Lancaster, one of the richest women in the country, a business legend, a quiet philanthropist, and someone who believed that change didn't start from the top down, but from the inside out. Eliza approached with awe and nerves pulsing through her chest. Miriam stood and smiled, holding out her hand. "I've been waiting to meet you. I don't understand why you chose me," Eliza said softly. Miriam motioned for her to sit. "Years ago, I was homeless too, a teenager on the streets, no money, no one to trust. I once stole a piece of bread from a grocery store shelf. The owner caught me. But instead of calling the police, he made me a sandwich and told me, I don't give food to thieves. I give it to the hungry. That one moment changed the course of my life. Eliza stared in disbelief. You were homeless. I was. And I swore that if I ever made it out, I'd build a way back in, not for myself, but for people like you. People with fire in their soul and goodness in their heart. She leaned in closer. When I saw that footage of you handing that sandwich to that man, I saw myself again, not just the struggle, but the light, and I knew I had to help that light grow. Eliza blinked hard, trying to process the weight of it all. So what happens now? She asked. Miriam smiled, eyes warm and wise. Now, you begin again, but this time with support, with purpose, and with people behind you who believe in second chances. That evening, Eliza was given a room at the academy. It wasn't just a school, it was a place for people like her. Survivors, fighters, givers. Each student had a story, and for the first time, she wasn't the broken girl in the back row. She was part of something bigger, something beautiful, but what she didn't know yet was that this story wasn't about just her, because the man she shared her sandwich with, he wasn't who she thought he was either. 2 weeks passed. Eliza was no longer the girl eating half a sandwich alone in the park. She was now waking up every morning with purpose, studying leadership, public speaking, social work, surrounded by others who carried wounds like hers. But were learning how to heal, how to lead, how to rise, and yet, one thing still stayed on her heart: the man in the park. She hadn't seen him again, had no way to thank him for the silent role he played in the turning point of her life. She didn't even know his name, but sometimes late at night, she'd sit at her window and whisper a quiet prayer for him wherever he was. One morning, she was called back to the estate. The same limo. The same woman waiting, Eliza, she said, handing her an envelope. Miriam wants to see you, but first, read this. Eliza opened it carefully. Inside was a photo, black and white, faded. 2 young boys sitting on a street curb, laughing over a paper bag of food. On the back, a note was scribbled. When kindness is all you have, it becomes more powerful than anything you could ever buy. Tears welled in her eyes again. The woman looked at her and said, It's time you meet someone. Back at the estate, Miriam was waiting by the garden. But this time, she wasn't alone. Sitting beside her, cleaned up, shaved, and dressed in simple but warm clothes, was him, the homeless man, the man she had shared her only meal with. Eliza froze in place. Her voice cracked. That's him. Miriam smiled gently. Yes, his name is James. Eliza walked slowly toward him. James. He looked up at her with eyes that had seen too much, but now glowed with quiet peace. Do you remember me? She asked. He nodded, smiling, of course. You gave me half a sandwich, and I watched the world give you everything in return. Eliza knelt beside him, overwhelmed. I've been thinking about you every day, wondering if you were okay. James chuckled softly. Funny, I've been watching you too. She looked confused. Miriam stepped forward. Eliza, there's something you don't know. The truth began to unfold. James wasn't just a homeless man. He had once been a civil rights lawyer, decades ago a fighter for the voiceless, the broken, and the poor. He had defended those no one else would touch. He had built shelters, fought for prison reform, helped thousands, until a personal tragedy shattered his world. He lost his family in a car crash, and with them, he lost the will to continue. He walked away from the world, from success, from everything. For 15 years, he lived on the streets by choice, not because he had no place to go, but because he believed he had no reason left to live. Until he met Eliza. She didn't see me as broken, James said quietly. She didn't ask who I used to be. She just gave, and in that moment, I realized maybe it was time to come back. Eliza sat stunned. You were watching me. I saw someone who still believed in humanity, and that gave me something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Miriam added, I've known James for years. We helped fund his early work, but after he disappeared, I kept looking for signs of that kind of heart again. You showed me it still exists." Eliza shook her head, overwhelmed. "But I just gave him a sandwich. That's all." Miriam looked at her with warmth in her eyes. "No, Eliza, you gave humanity, and the world felt it. That small act was a seed, and now it's blooming." James turned to her, his voice firm but kind. "I want to come back, to serve again, to lead again, but I don't want to do it alone." Eliza looked up, confused. He handed her another envelope. Inside was a proposal, a real one, a foundation founded by James and Eliza. "To serve the homeless, to educate the forgotten, to find and fund more souls like hers." She gasped. "I can't. I'm not ready for this." "Yes, you are," James said, "because you didn't wait until you had more. You gave when you had nothing. That's the kind of leader the world needs." Months later, the foundation launched, the Half Sandwich Project, named after the very act that started it all. Media outlets picked up the story. Headlines read, "Young woman's small act of kindness sparks national movement." From hunger to hope, the girl who shared her last meal now feeds thousands. She gave half her sandwich to a homeless man and got a mission that changed her life. Eliza stood on stage at the launch gala, wearing a simple dress, no expensive jewelry. Just honesty in her voice and purpose in her heart. "I thought I was invisible," she said to the crowd. "But one small act, one moment of humanity, brought me here. If I can ask you for anything tonight, it's this. Don't wait to be rich to be kind. Don't wait to be known to make a difference. Just start with what you have, even if it's only half a sandwich." The room rose to its feet. Today, Eliza is a leader, a light, a force, and the man she thought she helped. He's the one who helped her discover who she was always meant to be, because in a world that often forgets the quiet ones. One act of kindness echoed through the walls of power, and a girl with nothing became the voice for those who had even less. She didn't do it for attention. She didn't do it because someone was watching. She did it because something inside her refused to go cold, even in a world that had abandoned her. Eliza chose to stay warm. She gave her only meal to a man no one else even saw. And in that one moment, the entire universe whispered back, "I see you." What she didn't know was that kindness doesn't vanish. It doesn't evaporate or disappear into silence. It circles back. It echoes. It multiplies. And sometimes it returns in the most unexpected way, like a limo pulling up to a lonely park bench, carrying a second chance in its backseat. What began with half a sandwich became a mission that now fed hundreds. What started as a selfless act from someone invisible to the world turned into a spotlight shining on a forgotten truth, that the smallest acts often create the loudest ripples. Eliza never expected her life to change, but that's the beauty of real goodness. It doesn't ask for reward, and that's exactly why it's so powerful. She became the founder of something bigger than herself. A movement born from hunger, shaped by heart, and fueled by the very thing she once thought she'd lost hope. The Half Sandwich Project wasn't just a name, it was a symbol, a reminder that sometimes all it takes is one brave, quiet act to change the course of not just one life, but thousands. And as she stood on stage months later, looking out at the faces of people she once walked among, the hungry, the lost, the overlooked, she didn't talk about how her life changed. She talked about how she stayed the same. She still remembered what it felt like to have nothing. She still remembered the silence, the stares, the way people crossed the street to avoid her. But what she remembered most was the power of one choice, one moment, one act of love when no one was watching. So if you're watching this now, wondering if your small actions matter, if you're doubting whether kindness makes a difference, if you're tired, overlooked, or feel like the world never notices, this story is for you, because kindness always finds its way home, and sometimes the door it knocks on is a heart just like yours. So give, help, smile, share what you have, even if it's only a little. You don't need fame, you don't need a stage, you don't need wealth, you just need heart, because in a world hungry for hope, even half a sandwich can become a feast of miracles.